I give updates in my coffee and curriculum, and I like doing these. I really do. So, um, for those of you all who are new here, my name is Michelle, aka the Ignited Teacher. And what I do on my channel is I provide math teachers with evidence and research based strategies that can be used in their classroom as early as the next day. So, I am the creator of the math intervention cycle, which is assess, diagnose, reteach, and reassess. Those are two little 4 steps in math intervention based on my 25 years of experience and closing gaps. I'm also the owner of the Math Intervention Academy, which I am revamping this year, and I'm excited about that. This is my 4th year having the Math Intervention Academy. First, I was focusing on just understanding what math intervention is. This next revamp and upgrade is creating gap closers. So the instructional strategies that I know that quickly close gaps, teaching teachers how to do that. I've been focused on, and that is very exciting because it gets my little math brain and analytical brain into gear. So anything that I can take apart and put back together, it gets my fillers going. So without further ado, during this coffee and curriculum episode, let me take a little sip because I'm going to be dry, and then my allergies are acting up. So I had to stand back. I'm going to be using my second camera today, so it's going to be a little different um, because I'm anticipating having to move out of my house so that it can be repaired. I don't know if you all remember a year ago, I said in one of my videos, I said that I had a tree fall on my house. It was the second tree that fell on my house. Like I had a 50-foot pine tree fall on my house during Harvey. And during a windstorm, I had a smaller tree with the force of 100-mile-per-hour wind slam on the house and did more damage than the 50-foot pine tree that fell. So that's where I am today. And waiting on, I actually had to sue my insurance company. It's the same insurance company that did not want to pay for the first tree. And I tell people, and I'm laughing because what can you do but laugh because it's crazy. Insurance companies don't want to pay, and you're not insured until you get the check. So I've been dealing with that, and we are at the end of negotiation. And it's funny because the mediator is called an umpire, which is literal. The umpire will wait. I'm waiting on a response from him, and we'll see where I go for that from there. So I have had to use a portable um, air conditioner in my office, and that's been fun because it's hot. It really is, especially during the day. So, but it's cooling down here in Houston, so it's all good. But jumping right into our topic today is disaggregating data and um long range planning. I don't think, no, I'm not going to say I don't think. I know that school districts do not do a good job of teaching teachers, especially math teachers, how to support and disaggregate data. They do not. I was on X Twitter yesterday, and I follow Joe Bowler. If you all don't know her, she's the Stanford University professor. I think she's from England, and she was talking about this article that talked about teachers not wanting to attend professional development. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm one of those teachers because my thing is a lot of the PD that's out there that principals and districts go for is big box PD. And it's a waste of time. And what teachers don't have is a lot of time. That's why a lot of teachers have gone on and they find other people on Facebook, Instagram to follow. It's very few people or teachers that listen to the PD at their schools unless they get someone who is knowledgeable and makes sense. A lot of the stuff, and I've been to a lot of professional development, a lot. Um, and we just sat there and was just happy that it was over. Like, it was one, I forgot the name of it, but I had a lot of English language learners, and they sent us to a laying the foundations. I'll never forget. They made me miss school for laying the foundations, which was for gifted and talented children. And I'm like, why am I here? Because you could have sent me to something that talked about how to support English language learners, or as we're calling them now, emerging bilinguals. You could have sent me to something like that instead of wasting, I want to say it was like 5 sessions. Um, just a waste of time because I'm not one of those teachers that like to be absent because it's a mess when you get back. The kids are not doing what you want them to do, and they're just not. And you come back to a messed up classroom, and the kids, you have to reacclimate them to their teacher. So it was a waste of time for me. And it's interesting that the teachers who responded to her post were um we're talking about it's easier online. A lot of the teachers were talking about that and shrinking budgets. What people don't know is the Ignited Teacher. I have another venture that I'm venturing out into. That's a if that is the correct grammar. I'm actually going to be teaching teachers how to host their own workshops because that's solidified what I am doing is really giving the why behind why teachers are needed. And it's I know one of the posters said that, you know, PD, yeah, the teachers are not in the classroom. I don't think that has a bearing. Sorry for snorting. I don't think that's a bearing on it. I think it is sometimes, but when you're talking about instructional strategies and you kind of stand away from the organization, I think the instructional strategies hold true and are timeless. I do believe that. And some of the stuff that the veteran teachers have to offer, it are timeless things that actually work. Now, aside from classroom management, those are different kids, but the instructional strategies are A1. I can tell you that. So, but I'm going to go ahead and jump into disaggregating data. Now, what is disaggregating data? In my math intervention cycle, I talk about the four components, just easy components of the math intervention cycle. It is assess, diagnose, reteach, and reassess. Now, the assess on the front part is the universal screener. And a lot of teachers don't even know what to do with it. It's no secret, I'm not a fan of map testing. I have learned that map testing, it does not mesh or connect or inform you about state testing. That's my issue with map testing because it is not connected to a curriculum. So, like for the teachers in the state of Texas, we follow the TEKS, and map tells us about different content, different skills at whatever grade level a teacher is teaching for the state of Texas. But it does not inform what's happening on that state assessment because there are two different tests, and I want to clear that up. A norm reference test does not inform what a child is going to score or any deficits on a criteria reference test. And I'm going to give you an example why. Um, when years ago, my school district was giving the students the Stanford 9 and the Stanford 10. Well, the Stanford 9, it was easy. They were blowing it out the water, but they were not they were passing the STAR test, and I think it was tax at the time. They were passing that test, the Stanford 9, as if the STAR test was like curriculum they had never seen. There was no alignment between the scores. And I'm just not a fan of norm reference tests using that to gauge what's happening on a criteria reference test because they're harder. I had some students that were scoring in like a fifth grader. He scored on the Stanford 10 like 10th grade. But on STAR, he didn't even hit the commended range. He didn't, which is crazy. That means he had the skill. And I don't know the ins and outs of norm reference tests, but what I do know, there's no correlation between or minimum correlation between how a child is going to score on that state assessment. And that's what I want to clear that up when we're talking about the first step. And I know your administrators probably want you to use norm reference tests, but I would rather you take multiple data points, which means test, take that norm reference test along with the student's previous state assessment and what you see as far as your observation, which is qualitative data, and come up with an idea of where those students are. Do I highly do not recommend that you take one data point, even if you see it. If you're observing something in class, you need to see it over and over again, and it creates a pattern, not just twice. You have to see it consistently to say, okay, this is what this child is doing. And that's done through formative assessments, working with them, maybe doing a small group intervention, and whatever else you see in your classroom as far as tests and other things. But in the assess part of the math intervention cycle, if you're in a state assessment test, I don't care where you are, if you're in California, New York, couple that state assessment with some other data points to get a full picture and a profile of those students. So I'm going to go ahead and start with sharing this is my intervention binder. And I created this little cover for it. And it's along with the theme of my implement impl- implementation guide. It goes along the lines of that. So what I'm going to do, and this is my deck, move that out the way, is talk about how to disaggregate. That I don't know where that came from. And if you're interested in what goes into the binder, I have a video on the binder. what you should have in your binder, your math intervention binder. So I'm going to go, that's the planning. Now I'm going to go to the data. Or if you prefer, you can say data. So here's my data. Let me take the resolution down some. There we go. So here's my data. Now the BOY is baseline. That's where the students start at. And this is norm reference test. Now my students, I track their data. I do have a daily mastery check, but that's my formative assessment check. And some teachers don't need it, but I definitely need it because I need to see and document things that are happening in class. And I can provide a link. That daily mastery check is in my no test prep kit for getting students ready for test prep. And I think that's the only place that is in. But this is norm reference. This is the interim, the state assessment. So when I look at this baseline, now this is true for norm reference. That 180, the student didn't start out strong, but when they took the star interim we took it in December, they were projected to not meet standard. So this one, and look. And as you can see, 167 did not meet. 190 did not meet. And what I did is put them on the map test to see if I was actually moving the kids, because I was doing progress monitoring, but this map test data was so new, I didn't really trust it. And I still don't trust it because I need to see what they're doing before the middle of the year assessment, which they take this again. There was no monitoring with the tool, which I think NWA says that you can use it as a progress monitoring tool. But they're using it as a universal screener, which is incorrect, because if you are tiering the kids based on the data, they have to be monitored, and there's no monitoring for those kids with this tool. I like to use the tool that is given to see where they are. So as you can see, the correlation, these 190s, anything below 190, those students were not meeting the standard. Or anything 190, like 194, did not meet. This was December. This was at the beginning of the year. So when you're talking about disaggregating data, that's how you break it down. I broke it down and interpreted this data with these children. Notice that when I put them on there for progress monitoring, that was 12/5/23, I highlighted their boxes because those were children that were not moving like they should have. And here's an outlier. This child scored 195, but look, they were projected to score masters on the STAR test, which is the state assessment. This student scored 190, but they were still working below grade level because they were at approaches. So it doesn't line up. So here's another one, 196 and masters. I don't trust norm reference tests. As you can see the discrepancies, but if you're not tracking your students' data, you're not going to be able to disaggregate it and see where the students are. You're just not, because disaggregation means to categorize, break down, and analyze. And if you're not doing that, you're going to have a lot of surprises at the end of the school year. I got removed from the classroom, and I think I told a lot of people my story. Um, I got removed from the classroom before, but there weren't really any surprises about the kids who failed. I knew once I was removed, the supports were removed that I had in place for, I think, 4 kids that did not do well that I expected to pass because of the supports. But it wasn't anything, um, it wasn't surprising. And I can say that. So now I'm going to move on to the long range plans. So in the planning section, this is a long range plan. Okay. And I did it for and you're probably going to say, well, that's a lot of work. And it is on the front end. It's a lot on the front end, but it's not a lot when you're saying, okay, I already know for 6 weeks, this is what I'm focusing on with students. So if you look here, this is the vertical alignment. This was for my above grade level kids. Then I had my on grade level and then my tier 3. I think here my tier 1, tier 2 kids, they were going to all be on this as well. So sometimes depending on how you look at or looking at your students, they can share the same skill. But this was for tier 2, tier 3. This I do sometimes create a 2-week plan. So say this is a long range plan. The dates are 6 weeks. They're 6 weeks. But in one of my templates, I create a 2-week plan. So what am I going to focus on for the 2 weeks that I'll have them? So Tuesday, Thursday, my own grade level kids. And then I implemented iReady. I don't know if I'm going to use that again this year. I'm not sure because sometimes it's difficult. And then this year I have a lot of English language learners this year, several of them. So I'm not sure. I am going to continue to use Moby Max. I just need to reactivate my subscription. But then I might try Ascend Math. I'm not sure. I'm going to reach out to them because I do like Ascend Math for my math intervention. So I'm not sure how I'm going to progress monitoring them. Last year I used Moby Max, which was great, but this year I really would like a more comprehensive program to support the children. So we're going to see what happens with that. But when you disaggregate your data, your long range plan should connect to that disaggregation. And when you're disaggregating the data, you're breaking down the skills for each area. You're breaking them down. So, for example, these are my above grade level kids, but I knew they were already, I was moving them through the curriculum first. That's what I was doing with them. But for these children, I was actually taking and clearing up misconceptions, especially here. Notice on these tier 3 kids, I started with 3.2, that's on grade level, and I wrote down the skills that connected to their current grade placement. So 3.2D was compare and order whole numbers up to 100,000 because a lot of the students couldn't read numbers. Then second grade, which connects to 3.2D, 2.2D, use place value to compare and order whole numbers to 1200. And then there was 1.2G, represent the comparison of two numbers. This is important because if you're in the moment and the children are struggling with what you actually plan, you can easily pivot because you already have the standard there or the student expectation. So that's why this tier um, intervention long range plan is important for you because it gives you what you need. So, and it has the anticipated learning difficulties. I knew that they were going to struggle with place value number sense. And this was my tier two, tier three. They were working on the same lesson, but my tier three kids were on the second grade scale. And my tier three kids my tier two kids were 3.2D, which was at grade level. So there is not an exact science for math intervention. It's not. It's trial and error, but the goal is to close gaps quickly, and it's all based on data. So these templates can be found in my anecdotal notes um, on my in my store. You can use the search bar. It's a packet where it has student profiles in there. But long range planning is something that I am going to cover here shortly um, in my intervention academy. They'll get a complete breakdown of how I go through and plan long range and disaggregate the data. That is the first step in starting your intervention. It starts with the data and it ends with the data. That's why you say, I say let me see. Assess, diagnose, reteach, reassess. Because reassessment is your progress monitoring. And it is the part that wraps it up and helps you say, okay, where do I go now? But then you go back to the top part of the math intervention cycle, which is assess, and you go back to the screening to guide you through that. And that's the cycle for the math intervention. So hopefully this was something that you can build on. I'll drop the link in the comment section to the templates, and um, let me know what you think or if it's working for you. If you have any questions, just drop a comment in the comment section. So thank you for tuning in for Coffee and Curriculum. And I will see you all next week in my next live stream. Bye bye.